Nike handed her one of the biggest contracts the league has ever seen. Wilson gave her a signature basketball line, something they hadn't done since Michael Jordan, and then came the bombshell, a reported $50 million partnership with Gatorade, complete with her own custom flavor that practically shut down the internet. That kind of momentum doesn't happen by luck. At the same time, the contrast is hard to ignore. Angel Reese's sneaker rollout hasn't exactly been lighting up the shelves. Reebok's marketing push has gone quiet, and there are whispers that major brands are reevaluating their strategy. The reactions online, exactly what you'd expect, and the back and forth between fan bases is getting loud. So I've got to ask, are you riding with Team Caitlyn or Team Angel? Drop it in the comments. Now let's really break this down. Gatorade has been partnering with elite athletes for decades. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Serena Williams, legends across multiple sports. In all those years, through all those iconic campaigns, not once did a product launch crash their website. Until Caitlin Clark. The moment Rainberry went live, fans flooded the site. Within minutes, error messages started popping up. Screenshots of frozen checkout pages were everywhere. Most people couldn't even load the product page before it was gone. And the reported value of the deal? Around $50 million, placing it among the largest endorsement agreements ever given to a female athlete in any sport, not just women's basketball, any sport. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Gatorade didn't just slap her name on an existing drink and call it a day. Instead, they brought back a flavor Clark loved as a kid, reimagined it, and built it around her identity. This wasn't a quick logo placement or a limited edition label swap. This was a full-scale signature product, her own flavor. That's a completely different level of belief from a brand. The branding was intentional from top to bottom. The color scheme, the packaging design, even the name Rainberry aligned with her personal image. It didn't feel like a generic sports drink with a celebrity sticker on it. It felt like a moment, a cultural drop, and the response? Immediate, overwhelming, sold out almost instantly. Now think about what that means from a business perspective. Gatorade already has a stacked roster of stars. They didn't need to do this. They had plenty of safe options, but out of everyone on their lineup, they chose Caitlin Clark to receive something bigger than a campaign, a permanent SKU, a flavor that sits on store shelves nationwide, a product retailers reorder based on real demand. That's not a short-term promo, that's long-term investment. And when Rainberry disappeared on day one, the debate about whether it would have legs ended immediately. Because here's the real takeaway: Gatorade doesn't make decisions based on Twitter trends or highlight clips. They study numbers, they track buying behavior, they measure pull, and when they looked at the data, they made their bet on Caitlin Clark. Gatorade doesn't make decisions based on hype. They monitor hard numbers. They study retail velocity in thousands of stores across the country. When a flavor flies off shelves the way Rainberry did, that kind of speed sends a very clear signal. And the buyers weren't just die-hard WNBA fans. It wasn't only people wearing Indiana Fever jerseys or following Caitlin Clark on Instagram. It was casual shoppers. It was people who may not even watch women's basketball. People grabbing a bottle at checkout because her name carried weight beyond the sport. That's true crossover power, and it's measurable. And let's be clear, this didn't appear out of thin air. Clark's rookie season with the Indiana Fever was basically a live business case study for every major brand watching. Arenas were packed, merchandise disappeared, TV ratings spiked, corporate partners were paying attention, Gatorade saw the trend lines, they watched the numbers build, and once they were confident the momentum wasn't a fluke, they made a bold move, a reported $50 million commitment and a signature flavor to match. Everyone keeps talking about the website crash, and sure, it was dramatic, but in the big picture, that moment is actually the smallest piece of the story. You don't structure a $50 million deal around one launch day. You build it around where you believe an athlete's commercial ceiling sits for the next 5 to 10 years. And clearly, Gatorade believes Caitlin Clark's ceiling is far higher than most people imagined just 2 years ago, when a global brand servers buckle under the demand for a product tied to one athlete. That's not noise. That's the market delivering a verdict. Gatorade put its signature flavor line behind Clark, and consumers answered instantly. But as massive as that deal is, it's just the latest chapter in a larger transformation. Since Clark entered the league, the blueprint for female athlete endorsements has been shifting in real time. Let's talk about Wilson. Before Caitlin Clark, there was exactly one athlete in Wilson Sporting Goods history who had a true signature line: Michael Jordan. That's it. That's the entire list. Jordan. And now Clark. Pause on that for a second. Now look at the full endorsement portfolio she's built in roughly 2 years. A Nike contract, the largest in WNBA history, a State Farm partnership making her the first female athlete the company has ever signed, a Wilson signature line, and now a reported $50 million Gatorade deal with her own flavor. Any one of those partnerships would dominate headlines on its own, all of them landing within a short window. There's no real comparison in women's sports history, and the Wilson deal deserves more attention than it got. Wilson doesn't casually hand out signature lines. That's not their business model. They're one of the most established names in sporting goods, and they're extremely selective about who gets a permanent product line attached to their name. The last athlete before Clark? Not someone from the last decade. Oik, not a trending star. Michael Jordan, the gold standard of sports branding. Caitlin Clark is now in that company, not because fans are comparing careers, but because Wilson made the same type of long-term bet. And here's what people often misunderstand about a signature line. It's not a one-time drop. It's not a seasonal promo. With Wilson, this isn't a one-off collaboration. They are consistently producing, shipping, and promoting gear with Caitlin Clark's name attached to it. That becomes a standing part of their business model. Companies don't lock in something like that unless they believe the athlete represents long-term revenue, not just a temporary spike. The same logic applies to State Farm. They've invested in sports marketing for decades, partnering with star athletes across the NFL, NBA, and MLB. Yet in all that time, they had never signed a female athlete. Until Clark. That wasn't a random box-checking move. State Farm has years of consumer research showing which endorsements actually translate into brand growth. After reviewing all of it, they determined Clark's audience was too valuable to ignore. That's not a casual decision. That's calculated. Then you have Nike. Reports place her deal at $28 million over 8 years, the richest footwear endorsement ever secured by a WNBA player. But the headline number isn't even the most intriguing part. The real anticipation is building around her first signature shoe, expected to release in 2026. Nike has built billion-dollar legacies off signature sneakers. The Jordan brand started with a single model and now generates over $1 billion annually. Clark's shoe hasn't even hit the market yet. Oh, and industry projections already suggest it could sell out within minutes of launch. Now step back and look at the full picture. Nike, State Farm, Wilson, Gatorade. These aren't small brands trying to capitalize on a viral moment. These are powerhouse corporations embedded in American culture, and all four committed to Clark within roughly the same 2-year window. When companies of that size align that quickly, it's not reactionary, it's strategic. They aren't chasing a headline, they're investing in the next decade. At this point, Clark isn't just an athlete with good representation, she's become an entire commercial ecosystem. Forbes recognized it too, and when Forbes assigns a number to your influence, the entire sports industry pays attention. They don't rank people based on who trends the most online. They evaluate endorsement value, audience reach, economic impact, and, most importantly, conversion. Does attention turn into actual dollars? Does influence move markets? So when Forbes named Caitlin Clark the most powerful female athlete in the world, that wasn't praise, it was analysis. Overall, she ranked 4th among the most powerful women in sports. The 3 ahead of her, Gail Benson, Amy Howe, and Amy Trask, are executives who run major organizations. Among active athletes, Clark stands alone at the top. That distinction matters. During her rookie season alone, her off-court earnings reportedly hit $11.1 million. No first-year WNBA player had ever approached that number, not even close. Forbes doesn't just count followers, they evaluate engagement quality, how actively an audience responds when brands step in. They measure cross-industry appeal, like whether someone draws consumers beyond their core sport. They assess league-wide economic impact, that whether the athlete elevates the entire business around them. Clark checks every category, and the supporting numbers are public. Now here's where the conversation heated up. Angel Reese, who has openly positioned herself as Clark's commercial peer, sometimes even her direct competitor, didn't appear on the Forbes list at all. Not lower down, not in a secondary tier, not even as an honorable mention, just not there. And to be fair, Reese has had visibility. Stores don't slash prices on products people are fighting to buy. Discounts happen when inventory is collecting dust and needs to move. Now compare that to Caitlin Clark's upcoming Nike sneaker. It hasn't even been released yet. And analysts are already predicting it will disappear within minutes. Nike is laying the groundwork, building campaigns, teasing the drop, and investing in a shoe the public hasn't even seen. Meanwhile, Reebok is quietly reducing prices on a model that's already sitting on shelves. That side-by-side picture explains itself, but here's where things get more layered for Angel Reese. Major brands don't just evaluate sales reports. They monitor perception, they analyze public sentiment, they assess what an athlete's name represents, and whether that association strengthens or weakens their image with consumers. And according to multiple industry reports, some sponsors have grown hesitant about Reese over the past year. The recurring concern, the ongoing narrative tying her identity to friction with Clark. From repeated social media remarks that kept circling back to Clark, to brand announcements that appeared timed in a way that felt reactive rather than strategic, to public comments that spark debate without building broader goodwill. All of it adds up, and corporations see everything. They have teams dedicated to tracking tone, trends, and reputational risk. When patterns emerge, decisions follow. Reebok scaling back its promotional push is the clearest outward indicator. When a company signs an athlete to a signature shoe and then noticeably reduces marketing support, that's rarely accidental. That's internal reevaluation, and it's not usually a positive signal. The markdowns are visible. The advertising has slowed. Those aren't signs of a thriving partnership. At this stage, the debate isn't whether Reese's commercial momentum has cooled. It clearly has. The real question is whether the habits contributing to that slowdown will shift, because if nothing changes, the distance between her trajectory and Clark's will only expand. And the market doesn't operate on social media storylines. It doesn't reward viral moments alone. It responds to three things: what sells, what converts, and what kind of image a company wants attached to its brand. Clark's launches overwhelm websites. Her sneaker isn't even out yet, and the anticipation already eclipses most active campaigns. From the Gatorade partnership to the Forbes ranking, from Nike's build-up to the Sportico valuations, each milestone adds another layer, and Reese's visible frustration throughout that rise. But it's been exactly what you'd expect from someone watching another athlete stack win after win while their own commercial window narrows. What's unfolding with Clark isn't about one endorsement or one headline. It's about what happens when elite on-court performance meets authentic crossover appeal and steady professionalism over time. That combination compounds. One analyst summed it up bluntly: if we can't market Caitlin Clark, we can't market anyone. As the Indiana Fever move toward 2026, they're anchored by the most commercially powerful athlete in women's sports. A Nike signature shoe poised to hit with the same force Rainberry did, and a competitive core featuring Lexi Hull, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Sophie Cunningham ready to contend. The brands have made their choice. Forbes made its assessment. Sportico ran the numbers. And the fans? They crashed a website. So now it's your turn. Are you Team Caitlin or Team Angel? Drop your take in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Click the video on your screen, and I'll see you in the next one.